This is the case of 4 teenage girls that were brutally murdered inside a frozen yogurt shop in Austin, Texas. On Friday, December 6, 1991, 17-year-olds Eliza Thomas and Jennifer Harbison were working the night shift at an I Can't Believe It's yogurt shop. The yogurt shop was very busy that night. There were a lot of customers, and at one point, Eliza's own mother even stopped by just to check in on her daughter, and everything seemed to be going well that night. At around 9:30 p.m. that night, Jennifer's younger sister Sarah stopped by the yogurt shop with her best friend Amy. The two girls were planning on having a sleepover later that night, so they went to the yogurt shop to wait for Jennifer to get off work so she could bring them back to Sarah's house. That night, the store was set to close at 11 p.m., and the rule was that 15 minutes before closing time, the girls needed to lock the front door. That way, any new customers wouldn't be able to get inside while the girls cleaned up and counted the money. So at 10:25 p.m. that night, Eliza and Jennifer began cleaning up the shop with the help of Sarah and her best friend Amy. At around 10:42 p.m., the final few customers were getting ready to leave the store when they noticed that the only people left inside were Amy, Eliza, Jennifer, and Sarah, plus 2 men. These 2 men were just sitting at a booth. They weren't even eating frozen yogurt. They were just having a can of soda, and they were whispering to each other and just acting kind of odd. One of the customers leaving was a woman, and she saw this and she thought it was a little bit strange, so before she left, she asked Eliza and Jennifer if they were okay. The girls said no, that they felt fine and that they were just cleaning up and then getting ready to leave soon. Eliza and Jennifer said goodbye to the woman. They locked the front door with the 2 men still inside the store and then went back to cleaning. 15 minutes later, it was 11 p.m., closing time, which meant that the store should have been completely clear of any customers and the only people left inside should have been Eliza, Sarah, Jennifer, and Amy. However, 3 minutes after closing time at 11:03 p.m., there was a no sale rung up in the cash register. Now, next to the frozen yogurt shop was a party supply store, and at 11:47 p.m. that night, the owner of the party store realized that there was smoke coming from the yogurt shop and he could see flames inside. Firefighters immediately arrived to the scene, and as they were going through the building, they came across the nude bodies of 4 teenage girls: Eliza Thomas, Amy Ayers, and sisters Jennifer and Sarah Harbison. All 4 girls were found stripped, bound with their own clothing, and shot in the head. Police originally believed that this might have been a robbery gone wrong, but then they realized that there was still money inside the cash register. So if this was just a robbery, why did they leave the money behind? There were also no signs of a break-in. The front door was still locked, but the back door was unlocked and had been propped open with either a rock or a pack of cigarettes. Since the building had been lit on fire, any potential evidence was pretty much destroyed. Really wasn't much to go off of, but 8 days after the murders, police had made an arrest. Okay, more details are in part 2.
In a horrifying piece of CCTV footage, a man tries to abduct a barista through the drive-thru window. Washington State Police have released this clip that occurred on Monday at around 5 a.m. of a man in his car trying to pull the barista out of the drive-thru window into his car whilst he's holding a zip tie device. She's seen just handling cash before he literally lurches out of the window and grabs her wrist, and the other hand has a zip tie. Thankfully, she managed to escape before he just sped off. Despite the terrifying nature of the crime, thankfully, due to the publication of the CCTV, police received loads of tips and actually arrested a suspect on Tuesday morning. The giveaway for the alleged suspect was actually the tattoo, which spelled Chevrolet. Not a very common tattoo, but led to a lot of people phoning in and even giving a name. Thank goodness she managed to get away. That is not okay.
The most inbred family in Australia, the Colt family. The Colts were an Australian family discovered in 2012 that is believed to have engaged in for generations of incest, beginning with a couple known as Tim and June Colt, who were brother and sister that immigrated from New Zealand to Australia in the 1970s. The family moved throughout Australia to avoid detection, only being discovered when someone was curious about why one of the children weren't enrolled in school. Children slept in tents and their living conditions were so horrific. They were unfamiliar with toilets and showers, and they had never been enrolled in school. They were malnourished and dirty. It was apparently normal for grandparents to have relations with their grandchildren. Uncles had children with nieces, brothers and sisters had children, etc. I have tried to wrap my head around this case and their family tree, but it is difficult to understand, as you can see.
The body parts of 28-year-old model and social influencer Abby Choi were discovered a week ago concealed in pots of human soup. On February 25, 2023, investigators discovered a Dexter-esque, splatter-proof body disposal workshop in a rented 3-story home. 2 women's legs were found in the fridge. Choi's decapitated head was eventually located in one of the soup pots, boiling underneath carrots and green radishes. A layer of thick fat, several ribs, and minced human meat were also discovered in these soup pots. The gruesome murder was allegedly meticulously arranged by Choi's ex-husband Alex Kwong and his parents and his brother. Weeks prior to the killing, the Kwong family allegedly rented a 3-story house in the Tai Po district of Hong Kong. In the flat, police discovered a grisly butcher's shop, equipped with meat grinders, chainsaws, large knives, and meat cleavers, a hammer, face shields, gloves, and long black raincoats, along with Choi's purple handbag containing her ID and her credit cards. To some, this murder feels like it came from a sadistic family fantasy spawned by jealousy. Were they planning on eating her? The motive allegedly involved a family dispute over a luxury apartment worth 73 million Hong Kong dollars. Authorities believe that Choi was planning to sell the property as she was the one who purchased it, but it was placed in her former father-in-law's name to save taxes. The Kwong family reportedly lived on the property. On February 21, 2023, Anthony Kwong, Alex's brother and Choi's former brother-in-law, who also served as Choi's personal driver, offered to give her a ride to pick up her daughter from school. After picking Choi up, Anthony allegedly drove to the entrance of the Lion Rock Tunnel. The vehicle stopped in the tunnel and Choi's ex-husband entered the car. A hole was discovered on her skull behind her right ear, believed to be caused by a hard object. Choi's torso and hands are still reportedly missing and feared to have been thrown out. This past Valentine's Day, showing herself on the cover of a French magazine, Choi said, "Grateful for this recognition and for the continued support along the way." The 28-year-old victim was also the mother of 4 young children. She leaves behind 2 sons and 2 daughters placed in her mother's care.
Cannibal facts that'll eat at you for days. If you thought Jeffrey Dahmer was picky for not eating people with tattoos, Venezuelan serial killer Dorangel Vargas, who ate 10 people, didn't like his victims to be overweight because he thought that they contained too much cholesterol. On Thanksgiving Day 1991, 23-year-old Omaima Nelson stabbed her sugar daddy William before carving him up and cooking his head in a deep fryer and eating him for dinner. In the 1970s, Jorge Negromonte, also known as the Brazilian Sweeney Todd, would bake his victims into pies before selling them to local townsfolk. After murdering and eating his classmate in 1981, Issei Sagawa was released from prison because of a loophole in Japanese law. Since then, he's actually profited off the crime, writing books, appearing on talk shows, and starring in adult films where he bites his fellow co-stars. In 2001, a man named Armin Maiwis posted an ad on a website called Cannibal Cafe looking for someone to be killed and eaten. A German engineer named Bernd Brandes volunteered, and after photos and videos of the incident were posted online, Armin was sent to jail, where today, he's a vegetarian. In 1904, a Swedish sailor named Carl Pettersson shipwrecked on an island inhabited by cannibals. He was captured and taken to a local king whose daughter actually fell in love with him. The two then got married, had 9 kids, and Carl became the new king.
Hi, Nick.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
Good. What's it like being in here all the time?
What's it like being in here? You have your problems with some staff don't like you, Jess. Oh, you're a serial killer! You know, Biz and stuff. And
Have you got any friends here at all?
no, I stick to myself. I just stick in the cell with myself. I don't even care about going outdoors. There's nothing out there. I don't smoke anymore.
So what's your day like? How does it start?
I spend 24/7 in the cell, watching TV, reading the Bible, writing letters to Dawn, sitting around doing a lot of thinking, preparing, memory, going back in time, memory of everything I've been through in my life, and then just preparing for my death. Get all the tears out of me and stuff so I won't cry and jazz. You know.
Do not watch this video if you are easily disturbed. This is this sickening, very recent case of Lily Peters. On the 24th of April 2022, 10-year-old Lily Peters was making her way home from her auntie's house in Wisconsin. She was biking and she was familiar with this route because she'd done it many times before. When she didn't return home that night, her dad reported her missing to police. What transpired was her parents' worst nightmare. Her body was discovered the following day at around 9 a.m. Officers located a bike that ended up being Lily's in the woods near a walking trail at the end of her aunt's street, and her body was discovered shortly after. Disturbing details emerged about Lily's death. She'd suffered blunt force trauma and had been strangled. Her body had then been SA'd. But who on earth would do such a thing to such an innocent little girl? 2 days after she disappeared, police charged Lily's 14-year-old cousin, Carson Peters. He'd allegedly been riding home with Lily when the horrific incident occurred. It's alleged that he punched her in the stomach and attacked her. Now, the case is still ongoing, but he has admitted to the attack. Interestingly, his father is Adam Berger, who is pictured here. He spent 3 years in prison for being a convicted pedophile. Now, Carson's bail is set to $1 million, and if convicted, he could spend life in prison.